Let's start here. There's a full court press swinging into action in order to get one Joe Biden elected. Biden calls has been joined by one independent senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders, and from the Democratic Black Jesus himself, Barack Obama. While it's true that Democrats were more concerned with stopping Sanders than beating Trump, it doesn't mean that they want to lose to Trump. It just means on order of concern, stopping Sanders mattered more. Biden was uniquely capable in sopping up the preponderance of the black vote, and Bernie was uniquely incapable of running an adversarial campaign that would have been required to mitigate Biden's initial advantage. Despite Sanders failing, though, he gave us two crucial insights that, while initially postulated by the left, was shown to be demonstrably true in 2020, and it must be internalized as such. Basically, the same Democratic Party that spent the last 40 years telling lefties that they have nowhere else to go was willing to tank it all to Trump by ripping the nomination away from Sanders in a brokered convention, as long as it stopped our policy priorities from being put on the agenda. That is utterly profound. The strategy of lefties over the last half century to fold itself into the Democratic Party is the exact strategy that has incentivized the left's marginalization and disempowerment. It also means that whatever the relationship is between the left and the Democratic Party, whatever that started off as, currently, we are clearly not on the same page. The second part is just as crucial as the first, and this is winning the ideological debate. 20 Democrats attacked Medicare for all for an unceasing amount of time over the past year, and the policy came out stronger, not weaker. The argument that the public wouldn't support such expansive lefty policies is no longer up for debate. That has shown itself to be just false. This requires a course correction on two counts. Sanders losing creates an immediate inequity regarding distribution of power and their establishment holding the dominant position with Joe Biden. The only path to accomplishing policy objectives that we started this race off backing, and that we know at this point are popular, is to eschew political affiliation and come together under a banner of popular progressive policy demands, standing in solidarity that the race to the bottom is over. Do your job and accept Medicare for all. Do your job and accept the elimination of student debt, the increases in wages, and or lose going forward. Meaning, all of these policy proposals that we at this point know are popular, you have no excuse at all from not backing those particular policy proposals, seeing as the public is saying back those proposals. And going further, if you want our support, then you must be willing to accept concessions. I would like to suggest that should be self-evident at this point, at least at this point anyway, that the path of least resistance has not worked. We've been looking at this all wrong. In a bid to lessen harm, we've damaged ourselves and, by extension, this nation. Elections cannot be legitimately viewed through the narrow lens of a singular event. There's no point in which time stops, and taken over the context of 20 or 40 years, we get a political picture that exceeds any singular electoral event, depicting a country that has dramatically moved to the right. Why? The actions and inactions in your political space by various factions have consequences that go beyond the specific victor or loser in the electoral process. As the left disregarded all notions of accountability and folded itself into the Democratic Party, arguing that keeping the monsters at bay mattered more than principle, a race to the bottom ensued where any random, ineffectual bought blue would do. Not for an affirmative argument that energizes and deals with the material concerns of their constituency, but more so for not having an R beside their name. By giving unconditional support not only to the left backing the party that wouldn't back it, it is demonstrated in abundant clear terms that it is against our policy agenda, but that the left incentivizes its own malignment by normalizing the fear-induced support and destroying any belief that there is a capacity on the left to exhibit enough strength to credibly exert political leverage. Put simply, in never setting the tone or never setting the bone for fear of pain, you've basically hobbled your runner. This is, of course, helped by creatures in the Democratic Party that understand the politics being employed and utilize various strategies to curtail movements in a direction to demand accountability. Clearly, they don't necessarily back the policies, but there's also this kind of ideological class-based reasoning that falls in line with this point. These people never engaged the basic point that the policies are popular by wide majorities. Why is the Democratic Party willing to fail and potentially lose to Trump by not enacting those policies and getting the left enthused about their candidate? One specific oddball strategy I'd like to discuss that will be coming to a liberal near you is guilt-tripping lefties to consider Democrats or to back Democrats grudgingly by basically making an argument that if you don't do X, you will get Trump elected. How strange. Invariably, the argument that took center stage in 2016 will make an appearance in 2020. White privilege. Your white privilege allows you to not vote Democrat. Not only is this argument manipulative, this argument is BS. It boils down to class, even in the context of people that don't vote. Not only is this not an issue of white privilege, a wildly disproportionate share of non-voters in the lower economic brackets are people of color. The Intercept reports one of the most comprehensive studies of non-voters was published by the Pew Research August 9th, 2018, in which it summarizes its bottom line findings this way: the exact opposite of what is typically claimed by wealthy television media stars and DC operatives. Non-voters are more likely to be younger, less educated, less affluent, and non-white. The Pew data on the issue is stark. Almost half of the non-voters in 2016 described election where non-white, even though they compose only 1/4 of the population, where half was non-white, even though they only compose 1/4 of the population. Even more extreme is the data on issues of class. More than half of the voters, 56%, are poor, making less than $30,000 a year, even though that income group constitutes just over 1/4, again, of the voting population. The people who choose to vote are disproportionately privileged, and those who are non-privileged choose to disproportionately not vote. Understand what this means. In order to raise large amounts of cash, and frankly, probably even for class-based ideological reasons, the Democratic Party sold its soul and got rid of its New Deal Democrats. In the process of third-way Democrats taking over, the policies of least worst became the mantra. The rub here is that what they gained in pursuit of cash, they lost in regards to support of their main constituency, as people begin to realize that their votes weren't for anything to their material benefit. Basically, they no longer saw the point in voting. This is not isolated to liberals, by the way. Lefties, you are also crippling yourself in this process. Not only do you sell away your credibility and elimination of accountability for Democrats that you back, but you also lose your ability of leverage in the political process. At the end of the day, there is no magical door. The Bernie Sanders Hail Murray never even loaded his weapon. Change your tenor to realize that politics is as much a negotiation between two inequitable powers, at least in this context, in the established order of the Democratic Party and the left, as a union is to corporations. Why should any group accept a dispossession, or why should any group take the disposition of giving everything in return for nothing? Liberal professional smug guy Sam Cedar has even argued that one candidate backing one concentration camp less will be acceptable to him, missing the point that over the course of time, yes, you could keep that one distribution less. By the same token, you can also dramatically expand the number of concentration camps that you are pushing. No, Sanders was a compromise. I don't care about your political affiliations. I care about all of us lining up under this umbrella of policy and pushing and exerting our force on the political edifice. Do you agree with paying off your student loans? Something that has tremendous stimulus effect to the society. Do you agree with Medicare for all? Do you agree that implicitly recognizing that paying off your student loans is valuable to your society, especially in the context of work and in the context of incentivizing people to go to school? Obama gave 95% of the wealth to the top 1%. His blackness in no way stopped him from doing that. Again, these things were issues of policy. Bob, whiteness or white privilege apparently has nothing to do with blue no matter who. At the very least, it's the opposite of what we continuously are told.